Hey everybody, before we started, I just wanted to do a quick PSA. Um, this video is about Outer Darkness. I'm going to go over the combat system and some other stuff. But I did do an opening part of the video I recorded, and I talked about why I made the game. And I think it's actually a really great discussion. I talk about one of the sort of core pieces of my recovery, which I call the work, and how, well, you know what? Tell you what, if you're curious, you can keep watching, but I wanted to give people an opportunity in case they weren't interested. And so you'll see right here that I put the timestamp for where you should skip ahead to. You can either manually do that, or you can, I'll put the timestamp like on top of the description below. No problem. No hard feelings. We'll catch you in a little bit. All right, are they gone? One thing I did want to talk about is why I made this. You know, I did create this game with the goal of making sort of tangible the encounter with the shadow. That's the shorthand I've used to describe it. That's a familiar thing. It's becoming more familiar. When I got a copy of Man and His Symbols from my 7th grade teacher by Jung, I thought that I had a secret thing, which obviously it's not like Jung is secret, but 7th grader in the US in the 90s, not a lot of people were talking about it, or if they were, maybe just like the internet wasn't a buzz. I imagine it happened a lot, like people who were doing meditation, mindfulness practice, and then one day they see a magazine on the checkout of Whole Foods talking about, 7 tips to get the most out of your mindfulness. And that's a good thing, right? You want more people aware of that. But with that always comes a people sort of missing the point, or trying to. I think a good example would be like, how many minutes in here? Okay, I'm more than 5 minutes, so I can say like microdosing. When you talk about something like that, there is a very powerful experience, a confrontation with something ethereal and beyond. And so I'm sure it's we want to think of everything, especially in the consumer side of culture, as a health potion, right? Like this health potion, if you take it, you'll feel better. But if you take the whole thing, it's got a lot of side effects. So try to just take like smaller droplets of it. And I don't doubt that stuff has some benefits. But what I'm interested in, and what I try to talk to, especially young men in my life who I have mentor relationships with, I want to talk to them about the work. And that's what I call it. It's not like I made it up or anything, but it's always how I think of it. It's the best way to talk about it, is the work. And this is something that I think the work is not going to be on a front of a magazine. The work is the necessary confrontation with that which one most resists. It is not optimization. It's not decoration. It's not distraction. It's the root act that you need to do to undo suffering. And there's lots of reasons to not want to do the work. And that's what most of us do. I'm not above it. I'm not kidding. For till I was like 36 years old, I was the worst of avoiding the work until it became unavoidable. But the work is the opposite of avoidance. It's recognizable, not because it's inviting or it's easy, because it terrifies us or it repels us. It's not clever maneuvers around the truth. It's a submission to the truth, to the awe-inspiring nature of the truth. The truth looms so large over us that we are just like, we have no choice but to submit to its power. It's the climb out of the pit. And the pit, people are in the pit for so many reasons. One of the biggest reasons people don't want to climb out of the pit is because they're like, I didn't put myself here. You know, my parents put me here. My upbringing, something that happened to me put me here. Why do I have to climb out of it? And that's so hard because, like, who doesn't get that? You know? Who doesn't get that? That is bullshit. Like, if you were just burst out into the world and before you even knew anything, you just got pushed into a pit. And now the people who did it, maybe they're not even around. Maybe they're gone. Maybe they're still there, but they don't even recognize what they've done. You can't get them to recognize it. Even if they did, they don't have any way to get you out of the pit anymore. And it's just, you know, you're disgusted. And then somebody comes along and says, well, you know, you're suffering here. You need to fix this. You need to climb. And a person says, why don't they climb? Well, if they climb, they won't be out. I mean, that's not you. You won't be out of the pit. And it seems that if they put you here, it doesn't seem like they're going to help you out, right? We know we're doing the work when we're climbing out of the pit. We know we're faking it, or when we're delaying it, or when we're avoiding it, when instead of climbing out, we're rearranging the furniture. And we all do this. Like, you know, this is the kind of thing where we know how to the climb that we need to do. It's so scary. It's so hard. It's so lonely. Nobody understands. Nobody's going to congratulate us. And so what do? We say, well, you know, look, I could do that, or maybe I can get like a new thing over here. Maybe I could put something on the wall. Maybe I can get new furniture. Maybe I can, you know what? Maybe I'll tunnel this way and find somebody else in a pit, and then we can make a little city down here, right? It's not the work. The work is you gotta go to the place that scares you. Okay. The work is singular for every person. It often involves things like confronting a parent, somebody who hurt you, forgiving yourself, accepting love, accepting your talent, creating without shame, doing the thing that you actually want to do. I mean, think about that, man. I mean, wow. So many people watching this right now are not doing what they want to do in their life. And some of you got no choice. You made some choices that you know, you're working on it, you have obligations. That happens, right? I mean, that I'm talking about the sort of pits that we find ourselves in from very early. We all have to kind of go down a few pegs every once in a while. When we just start working, you know, that's a pit. That's a low pit we got to crawl out of. But this is the big one. You know, I'm talking about the big one. And you know, even talking about this, some of you may be feeling like I don't understand, or that I should be so arrogant, or that easy for me to say, right? Like I have something that makes my pit less deep, and that's fine. All of those are fine. But it doesn't get you out of the pit. That's the work. Only the work does that, and it's not fair. And so I think that understanding the work and accepting it is really hard, because especially today. There, like I said, there's lots of ways now to rearrange your furniture. There's also lots of people who are offering an opportunity to, rather than getting out of your pit, they want you to you'll free yourself by stringing together sort of, I don't know, bed sheets of blame. And the tough thing about blame, and the reason why it is so rare that anybody is reached about this, because usually you'll hear something where someone says, you know, you blame everyone else, but you don't look at yourself. And that's very unsatisfying, because I think it's also not true. The hard thing is that the people who are stuck blaming, they're often right. Like they are often right. That's the tricky part. They're right. They were screwed over. They are at a disadvantage. This wasn't fair. But again, that doesn't get you out of the pit. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Things were so unfair. I am sorry. I truly am. I mean, if you're still down there, I am so sorry, because it is so hard. But you gotta come out of there. You know, you can't live like that. You can't live down there. You gotta come up here. You deserve to be up here. And there are people who can cheer for you. There's people who can help you. They can throw things. That's what asking help is all about. You just got to do it, But I really am sorry. It's not fair. It's not fair, dude. I mean, I feel emotional talking about it, because I just know how hard that is when you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. You were just a kid or whatever. Like, you didn't do anything. But you can't stay down there, right? Because then whoever put you there kind of wins. Like, you don't prove anything by staying down there. So my reason I'm saying all of that in a walkthrough video is that I think there are a lot of ways that people can be supported in that process, and a lot of ways to teach people about it. But one thing I've found is that people want to know how. They want to know how, for instance, confronting my shadow. How do I confront my shadow? Oh, well, your shadow contains these parts of yourself that you deemed as unacceptable when you were little. And a shadow confrontation, what that does is it allows you to reconnect with that, and you cut off this part of yourself, and it's sort of you've grown to mistrust it, but in reality, that part of you carries an important part of your sort of psychic energy, your life source, and so you have to reclaim it, right? That in and of itself, right there, what I just said is huge, right? Because most of us are trying to hide or blame or even torture our shadows. And so if you're able to talk with your shadow, it loves you. Like, your shadow loves you. It's I don't this is a problematic sort of analogy, but I think it hits it. It's like a dog, like a dog. It's just because your shadow is little, it's still little, and so it'll love you no matter how bad you've been to it. There's a way to like make amends with it. But how do you do that? You ask someone, how do you do that? And they go, oh, well, your shadow is this part of you that and it's like, you just keep saying this. How do I do it? I as for myself, the answer that I have is active imagination is where you'll find that answer. And then you do the work. You do the work. If you don't know the work, or you are so afraid of it that you have repressed it out of existence in terms of your conscious mind, you got to do active imagination. Okay. And so for me, the reason for this is because it's so difficult to instruct people on this, that it is far more effective to provide metaphor and analogy. I'm not in any way trying to claim that playing this game is going to teach you how to do shadow work or is going to resolve that for you, but it's merely a metaphor for, in many ways, my own confrontation with the shadow. And for me, I learned through experiences that, and I'm using this George Lucas thing again, I apologize, that rhyme with what I should do rather than somebody instructing me. Nobody can instruct you. Nobody knows how to encounter your shadow. You do, right? You do. And there's so much shit blocking you. That's the thing. Is like once you recall that, once you know, it's like it's like this squiggly, like you see this, how do I get there? Oh my gosh, look at all this junk I've got. And then finally, when you finally are ready, you go, I'm here. How do I get here? And you're like, oh yeah, that's how I do it. And you're so scared of this that you've literally stopped seeing it. Like you stop seeing the door. You stop seeing it because it's scary. Fear is powerful, man. I hate being afraid. I had a very transformational experience. And it was like a 3-night thing, let's say. And on the first night, I tried to run away. And it was like the thing that I knew was going to fix so much for me. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I got in my car and I was like, I gotta get out of here. Thank God I didn't leave. But I was so afraid, man. Why are we afraid of this? Because when I was little, I sat on the steps while my dad and my brothers, who were quite a bit older than me, they watched Nightmare on Elm Street. And we had this staircase and it had a landing right here. And here was the sofa, and they were all like sitting on the sofa here. And well, I guess they weren't all sitting. Like I think we had a chair. It wasn't like a little lemmings. Yeah, my dad had this like recliner chair, right? And they were watching this movie, and I was here, and I was watching this movie, and I was so afraid. And for years, I just was like waiting for a door to open with like those little claw fingers, And the reason why that's so scary is because it reminds you of your outer darkness. It reminds you of the place that scares you. The work means you have to go find and confront not the fear. The fear is here. You don't confront the fear. You are confronting the fear under the fear under the fear under the fear under the fear. This orb that every other fear is like flavored with this fear. That's you just taste the flavor of it, and then you gotta go to it. Okay. Now I know I haven't been making a good pitch here, right? But it's true what I said that if you go there and you face that, you're gonna find two things. All right. And I got no way to prove this to you. You just got to trust me. And if you don't trust me, find somebody who's done this and ask them. And don't say anything about what I said. Just ask them. You're gonna find number one that this thing here is not. It's not. It's not a monster. It is going to be scary, but you're going to be surprised at what actually scares you. The second thing is that you will definitely survive, and you will be double powerful. You'll be twice as powerful. You will emerge twice as powerful of a human, because this thing right here, this is half of your power. It's half of your entire power as a human. If you haven't done this, I mean, hey, look, if you've done this, let us know. Let us know. Because if you've done this, then you know what I'm talking about here. Is suddenly you realize, for me, I had to grieve the time I wasted in my life. It all makes sense. There was a reason I had to do it. I had to go there to come back or whatever. But man, I just cried, like, just to think about that poor guy who just it was really I really just wanted to be happy and was asking for it in just all the wrong ways, Poor guy. But what's cool now is like I get to we together, like the two halves of me, get to sort of Care Bear stare my joy out in the world. I'm very happy I can make this channel. I'm very happy I could spend my life with a woman who I love and who loves me and who doesn't remind me of the the pain that I'm familiar with. That's the thing. If you have trouble with relationships, when you are finally find this other half of you and you sort of like take the time to integrate it, you're going to be like, what have I been doing? You're like, why have I been doing this? And it's not like, these were bad people I was with, but it was people who we were fused at the wound. You can't be with somebody who you're fused at the wound. You just keep ripping each other's wound open. And so I made this game. It's my unsuccessful attempt to put game mechanics to this. The game is about going into the unknown. It's about going to a place you can't come back from. It's about not knowing yourself. The character takes the oath of ether, and the oath of ether means you don't remember why you took the pilgrimage, but you know that you have to. You either were condemned to do it, you did some sort of crime, you're lost to the point that you went and said, give me the oath of ether, my life is just gone. I don't have any meaning, I need to go into the forest and not come back. Maybe your family made you do it. Maybe your family is like, every generation, one of us will always go on the pilgrimage to the outer darkness. You don't know. And the I had to add that, not only because um, it's helpful for like from a solo game perspective, right? If your character is finding out about themselves, otherwise people, if you don't have a situation where someone's finding out about themselves, you have this like phony dialogue that happens, you know, in a game where it's like, oh, Jared, I was wondering how you are. You're always so curious and strong, and I know that you were looking forward to going to university. And it's like, if you have this kind of tabula rasa, you're not worried about sort of having to overwrite files and configure everything, because it's just like you format the floppy disk. Okay, where are we at? Good. So I'll try to put a tag to fast forward people, because there's some folks who, boy, maybe need to do some shadow work. Hello, everybody that skipped ahead. We're going to get started talking about the Outer Darkness. Oops, sorry. I don't know where those came from. Okay, so let's combat. We're going to talk about combat. And for possibly the first time in my life, and definitely this channel's history, I am going to make a purely utilitarian explanation of combat. And I think the best place to start on it is the enemy encounter generator, because that's where even the notion of an enemy is going to start. You will encounter them on the travel table. There are several options that can lead you that way. And the enemy encounter, we need to know how like difficult is this enemy going to be. Well, we want to make sure it scales with something, okay? And so right off the bat, since everything in this game is D6 based and usually 2D6, we're going to do what's called the enemy encounter roll. And this is you don't need to remember that name. You just remember whenever you have the oracle tells you to encounter an enemy, you're going to roll a 2d6, and the result of that is going to be modified by several factors, okay? So the first factor is what zone you're in. In this game, if you're further out from the Child Queen's light, it's more dangerous. So in the dim, which is the closest to the clearing, the settlement you're from, it's a +0. So nothing, no extra danger, but you still got to do the roll. If you're in the verge, it's going to be a +2. And if you're in the outer dark, it'd be a +4 to that. All right. Next, we have something called the Dread Bell. And this is a bell that tolls, and as it advances, it's going to bring more and more negative effects. Some of them are very particular, but some of them are the biggest thing that it does is every time it tolls above the third time, so starting on the fourth time, it'll be +1 to this roll for every toll over 3. And it resets in different zone. So it's not like you're just going to keep going and it's going to be 47. And then also, if you've kind of been living on the edge and you've traveled more than you should today and you're travel weary, that'll add a +1. And if you should have gone to sleep and you haven't, and you're exhausted, that's going to add a +2. A lot of these effects are based on one of my favorite games of all time, which was Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. And probably a lot of you know this. It's a terrible night for a curse, and then when the night would come, the enemies would be more difficult and everything would be a little tougher and scarier. So I wanted to recreate that here. And so that's one of the ways. The zone, these other heightening factors, and then sometimes on the travel table itself, instead of just an encounter, it'll say, oh, you have a dire encounter. And so make sure you add, an additional +2 to this roll. And so we're going to set the difficulty score based on that. And the difficulty score is just like in any skill check or anything, it's the number you're trying to beat. And in this game, And I know this sounds a bit wonky, but it's going to make your life a lot easier. The difficulty score is the enemy's health. You have HP, they have difficulty score. All right. This is based on Tunnel Goons by Nate Treem. That was the inspiration for it. That is one page. This game is 117. But all of this, and this is a big part of the update that I just put in, the third update today on drive-through, is all of this is in the enemy encounter generator is going to go step by step, okay? So we get that number, and say we're early in the game, right? And we go, man, I made some mistakes. I rolled poorly. I think I'm screwed because I only have 10 HP, and I just got a dim. I'm in the dim, and I just got a roll that equals 14. And I don't think I have anything that could make my dice roll, my action roll, which is your 2d6 plus modifiers like your abilities, your weapons and stuff. I don't think I can even get over 14. Well, number one, this is from Scarlet Heroes. If you succeed, you'll at least do 1 damage. So at the very least, you could chip away with good dice rolls. But number two, we are going to set the difficulty score to say whatever you came up with here, that's your difficulty score, except we can't let you get out of hand. So the next thing you do is you look at the range and you say, all right, well, in the dim, it only goes up to 9. And so I rolled a 14. Whew, I only have to fight someone with a 9. Yes, but not so fast, because obviously there should be some penalty for rolling that high. And so if you go over the range, you are going to make an elite enemy. And so this is what happens is an elite enemy has the highest difficulty score of the zone. So in the dim, it would be a 9, right? And that's something you could roll over with just a 2d12, or sorry, 2d6. They also gain 1d3 buff. And we'll talk about buff. It's one of the maybe 3 or 4 stats involved in combat. And then they're also going to get some tags, all right? And tags are essentially descriptors that can give narrative qualities, mechanical abilities, a whole bunch of different stuff to you, to weapons, to enemies, all right? They're sort of hyper-specific descriptors, okay? And so each time we see a different, shall we say, acronym, initialism term, we'll add it here to make sure that we go over it. So we have buff, we have difficulty score, the enemy encounter roll, that's EER, that really, you don't need to know the name of it. You're like, oh, I have an enemy, I have to roll 2d6. You'll just know that, so don't have to put that in the cognitive load. And then dimness and dread, those are important, but not for combat. So we could talk about those in some other video. And we have these tags, which always show up in brackets. All right, just like that. And so that's an elite encounter. If not, say that we rolled with everything a 7, well then, that 7 is going to be the enemy's difficulty score, which is also their HP. Okay? If we roll doubles, then it's possible that we would have a group combat. And group combat is kind of abstracted. You fight one at a time, like with your dice, but you're supposed, that's not what is quote unquote actually happening, but it's the best way to manage it. And so we add some things on this group mayhem table that will create an impression that you're fighting sort of either a tag team, a double trouble, or a swarm with 3 enemies. We have some mechanics here for determining range. Okay. whether the combatant will be close or far. And again, we're going to have to be a little bit creative for these things because it's a solo game and we don't have that sort of um, wave pattern flow of things that we have in group sort of games where there's lots of different like axes to move things around. And so there's some ways that will switch that range. And then we'll resolve combat, and then there's rules for reward. So I just wanted to breeze over that, and we can come back to that. But it's not really what I want to talk about. I just wanted you to be able to hear that enough to understand how you go from walking in a forest to having combat. All right. A lot of the things I said, you might not fully understand them because it requires like the buttressing of other knowledge, and that's okay. So as long as you understand that you walk, there are certain things that raise the risk. There are tables that you will roll on each time you move forward. Those tables will sometimes give you things to explore, maybe some odd people that you can meet. Maybe that you'll find like a cache of loot. Maybe you'll find some resources that you could craft. And of course, sometimes you'll get into some scuffles. And when you do, this is the system that we set. And so the one thing that I want you to carry with you as we talk about combat is to remember this difficulty score and this strange that the difficulty score is the HP, and that the higher the difficulty score, the more difficult that the enemy is. And in the middle here, we have this sort of strange buffer. Okay, that'll be important because the buffer is the magic that allows us to use tunnel goons in a longer campaign. Because in tunnel goons, once you knock down an opponent's action, once you knock down their difficulty score, their HP, their difficulty score gets lower every time, right? So say their difficulty score is 10 and you beat it by 2, you take 2 off of that, their difficulty score the next round is 8. So you only have to beat 8. And then you beat 8 by 4, and now their difficulty score is 4. And it works just like that in this game, except the enemy has buffs, which you can think of as like in video games, extra lives, or Mothership, I think, has wounds, which are like you have to clear an entire wound, and then it's, each wound has a certain amount of HP. That's what the buff does, so that it doesn't have this downward cascading thing where the enemy just shrivels and dies, right? They're going to get juiced back up intermittently. And we'll focus on that because we're going to talk now about combat itself. And by the way, just to make your life easier, there's this enemy table, again, is there. It's ready. It's got lots of different options. It's in the back. So if you don't feel like generating a character, you just pull off the sample enemy table. We're not even going to have to do that right now. I kind of want to spoil as little as possible. This game does have some secrets to tell and some things to unlock, and not just the story, the book itself, perhaps. But as you'll see, we don't have a lot to toggle. There's not a lot of stats. There's not a lot of things. And this makes it actually very interesting. We're working on an economy of possibilities. So given that we don't have, Pendragon, right? You have 16 traits, and you have what's your what's your character? How much do they hate Saxons or whatever? We don't have that. We have just a few. And so far we have difficulty score, buff. You see I'm just scrolling on by the different patronage trees. This is so that throughout the game you can spend your acclaim or experience points kind of devoting yourself to one of the 5 members of the court. Each of them have different boons, and you can't level up all of them, you could see right here that you can put all of them to tier 3, but after that, you can only put a certain amount that can get past tier 3, and then there's only 2 that can get past tier 6, and then there's only 1. And these different colors just they're not specific to anyone. It just is like you're gonna have to pick one that's your specialization. But it allows some really cool customization opportunities. Some loot. Loot's always good, right? Another way that we can get more powerful. Just kind of as I'm scrolling here, making my way in the world today. All right, so it started on this page, and initially, um, there was this page, and there was another page that looked like this page. And look, I mean, 117 pages is a lot for me to write, but it's not a lot for an RPG, right? Like, if you have any level of collection, you probably have a 300 to 400 page book. But at the same time, you know, when you work at Burger King, you always make customers the type of Whopper you'd want to eat. And for me, the type of Whopper I don't want to eat is many pages of small font size writing. And so one of the things that I did in this latest update is I put the combat in a step by step so that you knew you could literally go to this page and just follow it every time. Okay. And again, the appeal to this system is that the action roll, the 2d6 action roll that you do for these checks, that is also the roll of combat. It's almost like your foe in combat is a series of checks, right? And what this allows for is it allows for you to put more focus on narrative, put more focus on story, your feelings, because those are the things that are really going to be made in quite manifest in this game. You know, you're going to have to create a tapestry that's part of your character sheet, drawing pictures and interpreting them. Okay. They can just be doodles. Don't worry about that. But it all starts here with an action roll. And in an action roll, we know that's the basic function of the game. It is effort, modifiers with I changed the font in this last update, and I'm so happy with the new font that I selected. I replaced the whole document because it had this very, I could show you, it had this very like chunky font right here before. And I like it. I like this font. It's just that it like made it look less serious. And then when I found this one, you can see on the top left here, it's like really nice, beautiful font. But it slightly changed the size of everything spelled that way. And so I thought I caught everything, but then as I opened this and I already like exported it and uploaded it, I'm like, damn it. There's just a hanging S here. We'll get that next time. We'll get it before we get it to print. We'll definitely get all these little things. And by the way, the print is going to be a while. If you're not familiar, if it's the first time you're hearing of the project, this is Outer Darkness. Inner Light is going to be coming probably closer Thanksgiving or Christmas, and then hopefully early in 2026 we'll put those two together to make the book. So, all right. So we have effort is our 2d6 dice roll, and then here's a list of modifiers. Ability scores are the ones you're going to put almost every time. Outside of like there's a few rolls that are just straight up luck, but your ability scores are your stats. And just so that you have it close to mind, it's one of the first pages that you'll have is like an explanation of Flesh, Sight, Lore, Void. But just so that it's all together here on the action roll, I put that all here. These are your modifiers. These are what are going to increase your effort to make it more likely that you can create a high action roll to measure against the difficulty score. However, sometimes modifiers aren't always positive. You see tags here, even though we're not worried about tags, a tag could be something negative. It could be really windy outside, and that makes it harder to shoot an arrow straight, right? But in terms of, usually in combat, you're thinking of all the things that are going to help you. And you may have some conditions, right? You might be poisoned. You might be, all these different things that can happen. And for those that are, remember in the last video, some comments were like, do we have to make our own tags? And it's like, yes, but I also took a little bit of time to just write some examples in the back. So we have like the key terms here. This one I really did a lot. These are all the key terms in the book. That's good. But then with the tags, I give how many? Yeah, there's 3, right? You said there's more? Oh yeah, that's right. There's 119 that I made and put at your disposal here. So you can look at any of those. I also put instructions for creating your own tags if you'd like. It's all good, baby. You're gonna be tagalicious. You're gonna be using the Chiaroscuro Liminalis, the greatest oracle that was ever made. I got to roll on it right now. I don't care. I promised myself I'd stay focused, but how can I resist the Chiaroscuro? It's the best oracle. And like I said, everything is 2d6 in this game, and I completely forgot about the Chiaroscuro Liminalis, which is a D100. Can you roll that with D6s? All right. So we got 36. And these columns in the CL Oracle, I know what the columns are, but you never will. They're parts of speech, but I actually wrote, if you were to take the, actually I have no idea what it all means. It's a mystery. 36, a child emperor. So right now I'm thinking of the child queen. 56. Haunted by. 59. What comes after. 29. Which can only mean one thing. A child emperor haunted by what comes after, which can only mean one thing. 53. A broken promise. Every time you roll on the Chiaroscuro Liminalis, you get a banger of a prophecy. That's why it was called the Necromantic Oracle originally when I created it. But I just didn't like that it sounded like the Romantic Oracle. It reminded me of those dice that are like kiss plus teddy bear. Sounds like a date night. Okay. Look at this. Look at this crafting exchange page I made so that you can use resources to rebuild stuff. Oh, I just love it. I love this new font. We're talking about combat only. Oops. Didn't mean to unpause it on this drawing that I did. Somewhat of a talent, rising talent. All right. And I'm not a rising talent. I capped at age 16 and never progressed. All right, so we have our action roll, and we're going to roll a 2d6. All right, we got an 8. And then our modifiers, all right? So we'll say that we're going to do close combat, so that would add our flesh. That is kind of like your strength, constitution, etc. And again, this is like in the back resources section. Also here, keep it. It says everything you need, mainly for strength, also grit, constitution, exertion, combat uses, melee. So we'll say we got a 2 in flesh. So 8 plus 2 is 10. And then we'll say we have a starting sword, and that is a 1 quality. So we're up to 11. I don't have any items. And tags, let's just leave that out for now. And we compare it to the difficulty score. So just for funsies, we shall say that the difficulty score is 8. Because if we look at the page before the action roll page, you can see some different, like, and an easy would, let's do 9 so that it's easy. And added these little like bright ideas. Okay. Darn it. Remind me why I have a brace on my right hand and am left-handed, and yet I put every time I put the PDF over on this side. Okay, this works a lot better. All right, so the difficulty score equals 9. Our first roll, our first action roll, our effort, which is a straight-up dice roll, was 5 plus 3, 8. And then I had a +2 for flesh. And then I had a +1 for the quality of my sword. So we see that rising quality in a sword only increases the chance that you are going to hit at first, but then we'll see how this sort of converts that into something more. And so was the action roll higher than the difficulty score? 8 plus 2 plus 1, 11. Yes, greater than. And so we hit. And this is where, if you're outside of combat, it's called the differential, but in combat, it's the damage difference. And not a lot of math here. The damage difference between 11 and 9 is +2. I am 2 over. And we now look at the damage difference table, and I am +2. And so I am going to do 2 damage. I inflict 2 damage. The enemy holds their HP here, difficulty score. So I will take 2, off of that, and it will be 7. So now they're easier to hit. All right. And you'll see this a lot early on because you're going to be pretty weak. Now, say that I didn't get an 11. Say that I also got a 9 somehow, and I was +0. Let's take a look. How much damage? I would always do at least 1. And the reason for that, the reason for this whole damage difference table is inspired by Scarlet Heroes. And until you realize why this table is here, it seems very annoying. Because what you want to say is like, okay, I had an 11, he had a 9, I beat him by 2, let me just do 2 damage, right? And that works sometimes, but as you go up, say that your damage differential is 8, that only hits for 5, okay? And so it's like, why do I have to use this table? Why can't I just do straight up? You're unnecessarily complicating it. No, the reason for this is twofold. Number one, it creates a challenging combat. If you were just taking off 8 difficulty score every single time, you'd just be like obliterating people. And you will be able to do that, like with time. Okay, like the highest you can damage is 6, but some of the most difficult enemies in the game have a difficulty score of like 15. Okay, so 6 is a lot. And we keep it, this way we're able to keep it at this lower scale. And it just is a lot easier, like well, I won't say where I was, but I was somewhere one time when I was working internationally, and I was working I was stationed at a place, and I went into a fast food place, and the cheeseburger I ordered was like $48,000. Obviously it wasn't dollars, but like it's hard to understand what that means. And yet so many games have these very inflated scores where you just like lose track. Additionally, you can see how the other end of things, you start the game with 10 HP. The max damage that you can take is 5. And not only that, these are the same thing, this number line in this table. It's just a different way to visualize it. From the start of the game, you will always do 1 through 6 damage. Whereas the enemy, they do 5 damage. If they have a 0, they do nothing. You will never do no damage. And if you look at this line right here, in the dim, you can, the max you can get is a -8 in terms of the differential leaning towards the enemy. Okay, and so because of this, early on, you're not going to be subjected to like devastating attacks. All right, and I think that is yet this number line has been like my life's work, and every time I fix it, I'm like, oh, I didn't notice the most obvious thing about it, which I think the dim is supposed to stop at that 3. It should say it somewhere. Where does it say? The floaters are everywhere. Look at this. Consumable. Norma. Norma? Oh, man. How did I not see Norma? Well, I guess because my brain was probably like, yeah, that's Norma. She's a cube. That's right. I made it optional. I'm adding it to my sophisticated note-taking cardboard here. This is optional, especially if you're a beginner, but you can do in the dim 3 HP, lost max, verge 4, outer dark 5. And by the way, I know that there's no perfect way to explain something that's quite big, but like you start the game in the clearing, which is like the only village in the world, and the child queen, she sleeps and her light goes in every direction, and it goes really far, and it protects from the shadow. And right around the clearing, dangerous, it's the dim. And then as you go further out, her light gets a little weaker. And this is the verge. And then her light cannot extend beyond the verge. And out here is the outer dark. And for all we know, as members of the clearing, the outer dark goes on, forever. Please excuse me. All right, so we have this damage differential, and looks like I did 2 damage. Their difficulty score would now be 7. So their DS equals 7 because we took 2 off of it. And so we're like, oh yeah, baby, I'm cruising now, right? And remember, we got flesh equals 2, and my weapon is quality 1. And so now I'm like, yeah, this should be pretty simple. And I roll, and I get a 3. A 2 and a 1. Dang. My flesh 2. My weapon has 1 quality. I got a 6. Okay, so 7 over 6. This is now a -1. And -1 is going to be 1 damage. Now, luckily, I'm a player character, so I don't lose my difficulty score. I just lose my HP. So my HP is -19, except I have armor on. Simple armor. hey, wait a minute, I include my weapon in my action roll. Why don't I include my armor? You do it later because this is the next term. And we can actually keep it on here. So we have HP, we have difficulty score, we have buff, and we have protection. I think I'm going to teach buff now. I think this has gone on long enough. And I think probably if you're a bit savvy, you already got it. But it's quite simple, so don't be intimidated by it. But it can be a little bit weird if your like brain doesn't want to chew, like it keeps chewing it and doesn't want to swallow it. I totally get it, so I'll go slow with it. When a basic enemy that you roll up is going to have its difficulty score, say it's like an 8, right? And all we got to do is hit it enough times and survive until its difficulty score is 0 or less, and then it's dead. Difficulty score of 8, and it says they have buff 1. Actually, I wanted to keep this sheet like pristine. Oh well. All right, I hope these work because they're like perfect tags. So we have HP, like little magnetized things here. Yes. All right. We have difficulty score, which, by the way, difficulty score, say you have to move a boulder out of the way, it has a difficulty score. You have to meet or exceed that difficulty score to move the boulder. And then we have buff or buffer. Uh-oh, running out of dry erase. So it's pretty pathetic when like the only other dry erase you have in your house when your Mouse Ritter dry erase dies is the other Mouse Ritter dry erase marker from the estate box. All right, so we have buff, difficulty score, and now we have prot. Okay, so in terms of buff, if we have a difficulty score of 8, then, and that's it, we just need to get that difficulty score down to 0. But, so this is like what a standard enemy would look like. They're if it was like boxes here. We just have to hit them 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dead. All right. A little bit too shapely of a skeleton head. Now, they also have DS8, but they have a buffer. And what that means is it means they have one set of their health standing out in front of their health bar, and you have to get them down to 0 or less. And on the hit, say they have 1 difficulty score left, and you get a 9, like an action roll of 9, and you're like, oh yeah, 9 minus 1, 8. And if we look on the table, oh yeah, that does 5 damage, so that would take them down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Because when this busts, it doesn't matter if you hit it for 50. You have broken that buff. All right? The buff cannot be carried over into their energy bar. All right? It's like a force field around them. If you hit a force field with, a super duper heavy fireball, it's not going to go through the force field and sort of half of the flame hit the person. It's just the force field's going to disappear, And now it's just that person there with no force field, right? And then we got rid of that one buff. Now we have to get them down again. And yes, their difficulty score goes back up. So you're going to have to roll your action roll against 8 again. So in some ways, this is a larger game design thing, but I realize more and more that the 3 axes of game design are. I'll have you think about this. So one of them, and I think like these are 3 steps of disillusionment on the path to this, because when I first started playing solo games, I was so inspired that I wanted to like make so many, this is a very common thing, is a person will play their first solo game and then they're like, I'm going to make the greatest solo game of all time. And I love that. And they should. But for me, I thought that, and I was like, it just has to be the most creative. Right. But then it was very creative, but the interaction or interactivity was not usable. There was too many moving parts. It was like a big board game. It was almost like a what is it, a 4X like Civilization 3 kind of settlement management. And then if you have too much like ease of use, well, the easiest to use thing would be like the game War with playing cards, right? My card's higher than yours, I win. Your card's lower than mine, you lose. And so you want it to be creative, but the more creative you get, there's a tension there. But then the third axis of this, I would, in my opinion, and I would say I'm somewhat of a, what did I say earlier? Somewhat of a talent. I'm sorry, I just listened to a Warhammer book with Belisarius Call when he said, I'm somewhat of a modest genius. The third axis of this, I would say, I'm not going to spell it right, is verisimilitude. And these are all in tension with one another. How realistic is it? Right? And for some reason, I feel solo play really, like for instance, in group combat, say the enemies have a swarm tag, which means that there are 3 of them. And here's me, instead of all just like, what are they going to do? I mean, how else can I do? But they'll be like, hello, I'm enemy 1. Clink, 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 clink. Ugh. Hello, I'm enemy 2. Clink, clink, clink. Now, some of this is taken care of by like abstraction. So we say, well, I'm not actually fighting them separately. That's just how I'm resolving it with dice rolls, right? But I still had to add things like a group mayhem table to give it some sort of feel of that, right? And so that was verisimilitude versus interactivity / ease of use / intuitiveness. And I think with the buff thing, there is a way. Sometimes there's not a realistic sort of way to think of things, but then you'll find something that feels good and you'll be like, all right, that works. So it's like, what kind of combat would be like, wow, I'm really beating somebody and then I do a crushing blow and then they regain their health and they're harder to beat. And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I guess if you beat up on somebody, they're going to get pretty mad. Or, you think about a boxing match or a UFC, it's like, okay, you came out swinging, but this person tried to fight you with like technical, ground and pound floor combat. And so you're going to have to change up your strategy. And I'm like, yeah, kind of makes sense, right? But it makes sense enough. That's what's important in some of these, because you just have to get like sufficient in each of these categories at a certain point. You settle for that. All right. So it's not a damage soak. It's as because it does not carry over, right? If this was like in some games, if this was armor and it had 3 protection and you got hit for 5, they'd be like, all right, well, 3 of it got taken off, but you still take the other 2. No. we use the term breaks. You've broken a buff. And now another one. You could have an elite enemy that has 3 buffs that you got to go through, right? And if they have 3 buffs and they have 12 difficulty score, which I know sounds really, really hard, but as you get stronger, it's going to be more doable. They're going to have, 3 of these 12 difficulty score points shields out in front of them before you finally get to just the place where you're going to be able to take them down. On top of that, anytime a buff is broken, we are going to check for a range change. Okay. And, I guess we can put that up here because this is just all the things that are going to factor in to an enemy, how difficult the combat is, or the type of factors we have at play. Okay. But the in short, you have a choice in this game in that you only equip 3 things. It used to be a non-equip game. I miss those days. You have your main hand, you have your offhand, doesn't really matter that much, and then you have your armor. The only reason for main hand, offhand is so that it prevents you from putting 2 offhand things, which is basically it prevents you from being the one weirdo who's like, I'm just going to walk around with 2 shields. So in your main hand, you'll usually have a weapon that is melee. And then in offhand, you can do a shield, which will help you negate some damage, or you could put a ranged weapon. And the benefit of having the disadvantage of the ranged weapon is that you don't have a shield. You're going to be more vulnerable to attack. The benefit is that whenever a buff is broken, you'll do a range check, right? And that is fairly simple. Prior page, whenever a crit is scored, which in this game a crit success is called a dream, and a crit failure is a nightmare, or when a buff is broken, there's a range adjustment likelihood. Now, you could modify this if you have enemy flavor. So, if you're fighting a tree, they probably won't move. But you can also just sort of decide that. You can always do that. Generally, most enemies, you're going to roll 1d6. 1 to 4, they remain where they are. 5 or 6 or more, if there's modifiers, they move. If an enemy will always start combat in melee, if they move to ranged and you don't have a ranged weapon, you are going to have to do one of 2 things. You're either going to have to close the distance, and that is going to make you vulnerable, and you're going to have to take a turn to do that, or you're going to have to change or add a weapon, which is going to take a turn, or you're going to have to say you only have a ranged weapon. You don't have a melee weapon. Well, if they get close, you got to punch them. And as you imagine, in most games, putting up your dukes is not very strong. Okay. So basically, you have the potential to be caught flat-footed if you have a shield, but at the same time, your shield has prot protection, as does your armor. And so let's go over that now. All right, so protection is kind of unique in terms of combat-related stats in that it's the only one that is not going to be part of the action roll up front. It's going to allow you to negate some damage sometimes, all right? For weapons, your quality, and in fact, that should probably be one as well here. Your quality determines how much that weapon adds to the action roll. which will not only increase your chances of hitting, but it will also increase the damage differential. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1, right? And that's why like most weapons are quality 1 through 3. If you get a 4, it's really good. You get a 5, that's like a extremely rare, and a 6 is a legendary weapon that has like a name and maybe its own soul. Also, above 4, it has a tag. So it's going to have some sort of like a factor condition that it does or some advantage. Worry about that when you get into the swing of things. The thing about quality, though, is that sometimes if you roll a nightmare, you can get a tough break. And it's a D6 table, for instance. There are also some enemies that can cause this, but basically you can crack your weapon. And when your weapon's cracked, the quality goes down. And just like the enemy's difficulty score, how it goes down and they become less efficacious, a loss in quality of your weapon does not just make it like lower quality and in need of repair. It means that it exerts less on the action roll. So if you had a sword that was quality 2 and it cracked, it goes down to quality 1. Now you can still repair that with a repair task, but if it goes to quality 0, it has to be smithed in town. So protection, armor quality works differently. It is going to determine how many D6 dice are rolled to see if you got protection. So if you're wearing armor that is quality 2, then you get to roll 2d6, and every 6 that comes up decreases damage by 1. Again, these are not huge numbers. These are not great odds, right? I mean, but look, is that a 6 too? Is that the 6 on this? Bro, I rolled 2 6s. All right, so there. All right, so amazing. All right, so now you might say, "Wow, that if the enemy's only doing like 1, 2, or 3 damage on me, that's a lot, right?" But at the same time, you have to decide if you want to roll, because if a 1 comes up, that's a crack and it lowers the quality. But a 1 could be negated by a 6. So if you roll a 6 and a 1, it's a wash. But if you were to roll a 1 and a 5, that armor quality goes down by 1. That means next time, it's quality 1. You only get to roll 1 dice. Look at that. And you roll a 1, it goes down in quality again. Now it's broken. It's not cracked, it's broken. You need to get it smithed. So that's what armor does. But a shield is a little bit different. Okay, this has a little bit different odds. You'll always roll a 1d6, and on a 4 to 5, you reduce incoming damage by 1. And on a 6, you block damage equal to the shield quality. So if I have a shield quality 3, I am never this good. What the hell? Okay, you have a shield quality 3, and you roll a 6. You block 3 damage, which is huge. But again, on a 1... What is going on right now? Like, is everything okay in this room? Is like, what? Hold on a second. Hold on 1 second. I gotta just... is this expired? I'll do this after. If I roll another 6, I will poo-poo my pants by next Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. But what does the 4s mean? Oh my God, I'm going pee-pee. All right, so whatever is happening, it's wonderful. So, as I was saying, the shield is going to have just a different type of damage reduction. It's going to have less chance to do a big damage reduction, okay? But it has more common to chip off 1 damage. So, I think both of them, as you look at it, you say, how much is that going to play into it? Like a lot, I mean, while I was playtesting, I blocked a lot. And a lot of times one damage in this game, because it's scaled so low, it works, man. Like it helps. It's the difference sometimes. All right. What do you think of this? So you want to remember how to do buffs? Drop the DS to 0, break a buff, reset DS, repeat same stuff. And I was like, that kind of sucks. So I tried to make a better one, and I got. You guys are gonna love. You're gonna love this game. Look at all this awesome stuff you have to do. Spells. Oh, the wound weft. This is what you do for you create your tapestry. I mean, this is just, I don't know. I mean, I definitely need your help. And also, can somebody do the thing where it's like, if you don't like a part of it, just be like, I made a supplement that fixed the dimness clock. I will think that's so cool. Unless you're like, I'm doing this because it sucks. Oh, here we go. There's like the clearing. There's the dim, the verge, and the outer dark. Not finding it. I guess I'll just say it. Here we go. If you want to hurt foes, drop their DS to 0. If they have no buff, you're already a hero. But if they do have a buff, their DS resets. You must break it again before the beast rests. That is actually pretty good. I'm going global. All right, so some other stuff with group mayhem, some other stuff with rewards. Basically, there are 5 categories of enemies. Basic enemy in single combat has the lowest rewards, but you still get whatever their difficulty score was divided by 2, rounded down in both acclaim, which is XP, you can buy advancement, some other stuff, or umbral, which is shadow. I bought a book the other day that actually uses umbral, which is amazing. And then I'm like, maybe it's one of those things that I thought was clever. It's derived by like sombra, shadow. But it seems like everyone's clever together. And then we roll 1d6 on a loot table. And again, because of the low options, it's like you have to get creative in how you scale things. So it's like I have 4 loot tables, general ones. There's also location loot tables. But so maybe an upgrade is that instead of rolling, you get to choose on it. I think that, as you can see here, like in combat, the enemy has a buffer, you have protection, range affects things, quality of your weapons, quality of your armor, your HP, their difficulty score. The thing that makes this, that takes the lights and spins them till they dazzle are really tags. They're tags. And the things you can do with tags, you can really create some really interesting tags that do interesting stuff. You could do clock tags that are like, I have one of the bosses. It's like they'll absorb your attack 5 times, or they'll absorb damage. But then if you hit them enough to the 5th time, they like unleash the pain that you've inflicted on them. So you are trying to attack them fast and get rid of them fast. But if you're too aggressive, you're sort of like feeding this clock, which will then explode outwards. So, I think the balance thing is the thing that we're just going to have to figure out over time. I think there's some things that are probably significantly less balanced than others. Balance is never going to happen. I see relative balance as a goal, usability as a goal. But really, I think the thing I'll be focused on with my next update is making sure that the task upkeep systems are working, and to make those changes. Because even now, I notice some things where it's like, I didn't think of this case. And there's also stuff that I wanted to do that I just forgot to put in. For instance, there's a thing of if you're at range, you can do like a rush in attack where you can run in and punch, and it could actually do some good damage, more than punching usually does, which I think is 1d3. But if you miss, you leave yourself exposed, and then you take more damage. So I hope that you both ask and others answer questions. I don't want to try to do that thing that some game companies do that's like, oh yeah, we're just like collaborating. It's like, no, I'm selling you a game, you're buying it. But again, that is why I put it at the price I did for the first month, just to kind of like sort of level expectations, that it's still being a work in progress. Okay. Well, that I think covers everything for combat. We talked about buff. We'll have to do tags in a different video and maybe group combat. But lots of tools in the back, and lots of different path generators for all different quests. I updated the your player character sheet, made that a lot more usable. So I think we're well on our way here, friends. Oh, the NPC. I made a really fun NPC generator. Let's leave on that note. So what's kind of fun is, like, in the clearing, there are set characters. They're set in as far as like their names and their attitudes. There's no like specific. It's not like a detective game where you're slowly uncovering a mystery per se. I think there is a mystery, and there's also these truths about the world that you can reveal. They're hidden, and you can slowly access them by advancing your character and their wound weft and their stitches. But the pieces in this world, they all have a specific meaning to me, because this is, again, my titration of my experience of shadow work. But it's not like there's only one way to see a bigger picture here. There are many bigger pictures, because I have faith that the story of the work will always fall into place for everybody if they apply themselves and try. But it will show up in the way that it's going to show up for you, right? And so I developed it as that. And unfortunately, these videos that I do and stuff, it really doesn't get to show what I think I do best, cuz like I think I'm competent with mechanics, but there's a depth to this game that unfortunately I could only show you so much of that, because I want you to experience it for yourself. And quite honestly, yeah, here's what we could do in the clearing. There's a bunch of different people. We could see Wick the Lantern-Eyed. Give us some task upgrades, sell us some different things. Some stuff they sell in the clearing, all different shops, different encounters. But this NPC generator, merchants on the road, and then, yeah, just a fun one. You could obviously use the general oracles in the back, the chiaroscuro liminalis, but yeah, this was like, I really tried to push myself to get like really good, really fast moving oracles. So yeah, I think that there are some mysteries, right? There are 5 truths of the world that I hid. Not only are they in a stupid font, they're also in the back of the book, and they're also upside down, because I don't want you to accidentally see them. And it's not because it's like Clue, I'm not like, guess who? They are definitive truths. They aren't like the wind whispers at dawn. they tell you things. And I can't tell you even about what they tell you because I want you to encounter it for yourself and notice the way you react to things, okay? Because that's my hope, is that you have a great time playing this game. But I hope in some small way you can either learn something that helps, or for many of you, I have to say, on the flip side of the beginning of this video, there are many of you who are at very good places in your lives. And look, we all struggle. We can all fall back into the pit at any time. But some of you, you're not actively suffering. But I think some of you have not unlocked the ability to teach yet because you're not used to being maybe in that role. And so that's a hope too, is if there's anything here that can activate a will or an idea of how you can mentor somebody, how you can teach somebody. But really, just play the game. That's what I want the most, is for you to just have, a good time. I don't think I have an outro anymore. I used to have an outro thing that I would press. It's gone. What the hell am I supposed to do here? Okay. I wonder what this does here. Oh, wow. Wait a minute. No, we can't. No. I'm not covering up those names. Congratulations to the podcast winners. Mick19, Mythology Making, Carmela Dawn, Jaren, Flying Fool, Chested, and that was not home cooking. Who's the other one? Well, I put up a post. Congratulate them.